Greetings, Highlanders. I'm Mike Smullen, Executive Director of the Alumni Relations Office at NJIT, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to our latest Highlander Chat, NJIT's Campus Transformation. I'm very pleased to welcome our guest today, Andrew Christ, class of 1994 and '01, double degree, always love that. Andrew previously worked at Ford Motor Company, at Aventus. He also served as an assistant vice president at Georgian Court College and as an associate vice president at NJCU, and he joined NJIT in 2014 as vice president. Now he is senior vice president of real estate development and capital operations. Andrew, welcome to the latest Highlander Chat.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's my pleasure to have you here. Our alums are super interested in all the things going on campus. It's usually the number one question I get is, what does campus look like now if they haven't been back? Or when they do come back, they say, how did it end up like this? How has it gotten here? It's so different. So before we get to that, my first question is really pertaining to your status as both an alum and a staff member. What is that like, both having graduated with an undergraduate and a master's and coming back as a staffing position?
It's truly been an incredible opportunity. I call it a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to come back to my alma mater after cutting my teeth at a lot of other places, as you mentioned. Even before Ford, I spent several years in the consulting engineering industry after graduating NJIT with a civil engineering degree. So to get the chance to come back, make a mark on my alma mater, right at an unbelievably opportune time where we were beginning the 2020 Vision Strategic Plan. We have an incredibly talented team led by Dr. Bloom, including our Provost Fadi Deek, our CFO Ed Bischoff. Being able to create this position. Dr. Bloom recognized that we needed someone to focus on the facilities and development of the campus, and really extracted my role from what was the vice president of administration and finance, so that I could focus on my role and the growth of the campus. So it's truly been an honor, and I love hearing from alums as well. I love hearing from our students about how things have changed over my 7-year tenure here at NJIT.
So I've worked here for probably around 7 years. You've been here a little bit longer. And one of the things I have been so impressed with, more than any other place I've worked, is the incredible attention to detail on the small things and the big things. And I think any engineer out there is going to know how much work goes into planning any sort of major transformation. So I see things like green space around campus that I didn't see even when I started. I see things like signage around campus, not just signage on buildings that's been changed over, but signage that's actually explaining what's going on. And I want to point out something real quick for all of the viewers on the screen. You're going to see a QR code in the bottom corner of your screen. That takes you to an incredibly detailed website, but some of the projects that Andrew's going to talk about today. So with that in mind, and just the vast amount of change that goes on campus, and I think the added challenges that you must have faced working within a city, which of course is very different than a suburban campus or a rural campus. How did you develop and how did you expand this plan to transform campus?
Well, it didn't take me long. When I walked around campus, I came back even before I interviewed for the position, and saw that many places looked exactly as they had during my time here in the late 80s and early 90s as a student, which was, I'll say frankly disappointing. Seeing labs and lecture halls and buildings that had not really received the attention that they deserved to receive in order to provide our students, faculty, and staff with optimal facilities in order to really effectuate the learning that goes on here and the research that has gone on here at NJIT over the last couple of decades was disappointing, but at the same time provided me with an incredible challenge. So the first thing I needed was a team. I needed people that in the appropriate organizational structure that could focus on the day-to-day operations and be able to provide the service levels that are expected on a college campus. And a lot of that was, the experience that I was able to bring from the corporate campus structure at a place like Aventus, where there was high demand by the people that worked there and high expectations. Fortunately, for a pharmaceutical company, you also have the resources to go along with that. So at a higher ed campus, we had to make sure that we had people that were very, very creative and could make things happen in such a way that they maximized the use of our resources. We needed to get that financial support, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have a terrific relationship with our CFO and our provost, and really focusing on how we would improve the campus as part of the 2020 vision. And then creating that plan with the support of the Board of Trustees. Our former board chair, Stephen DePalma, who is also an NJIT alum, was integral in making sure that I had the resources that were necessary to succeed, not only for new buildings, but for what we call capital renewal and replacement, which is really about investing and stewarding the existing facilities on our campus and making sure that those facilities got the appropriate attention while we were still developing and building new buildings around the campus to accommodate the expansion, to accommodate our research increase, and to really replace some of the outdated facilities that were well beyond useful life. So we began a focused plan that took our annual stewardship spending, our capital renewal and replacement spending, from $4 million when Dr. Bloom took office as president of the university, and we're now spending from the NJIT budget on an annual basis about $15 million. And then whatever supplemental funds that have come in have allowed us to spend over $20 million a year for the last several years on that capital renewal and replacement plan. And I think that's, Mike, where you have seen that transformation really occur, whether it be putting the appropriate signage in place, working on the landscape and hardscape of the campus, but most importantly, going back into the classrooms and the research labs and the lecture halls and making sure that those incrementally, a little bit at a time, have been improved and brought up to today's standards, allowing for the instruction to occur, allowing for the appropriate pedagogical participation that has to happen between our faculty and our students, the experiential learning that's necessary today, and really the change from what I'll say was a kind of a chalk and talk experience to a more in-depth education of our students.
I've got to say, one of the things that I've been most impressed by has been your ability to be on multiple tracks at the same time. So what you just described is partnership with faculty and students, which of course is the bread and butter of a great university when you're learning from them and listening to them and giving them what they need. And the idea that you're also moving forward things that have to be moved forward. For instance, the Muller Center, which was right on the side of Eberhard Hall and is no longer. But also your understanding of the fact that vibrancy to campus life has so much to do with sometimes with open space and a lot with collaboration. So you've got this incredible understanding of it. What I'm also interested in, though, is that sometimes things just kind of come together. And when I look on campus, of course, a lot of our viewers are going to know this already, but we have these two tremendous major things that were added to campus. One of them, obviously, is the Wellness and Events Center, which replaced the former athletic center that was there. But it wasn't just a replacement, it was a dramatic transformation. And the other is Makerspace. And Makerspace is really one of the largest Makerspace facilities, I believe, in the state, and certainly one of the most well-developed, I believe, in the country as well. What I'd love to know is what's a highlight of how these things happened and maybe some of the surprises you ran into along the way to make these dramatic, large changes to campus?
So as our audience knows, when you develop, especially in an urban center like in Newark, there are always surprises that occur. But I'll talk about the WEC first. That was a transformational project. The 2008 facilities master plan that I inherited when I got here talked about a new athletic facility, athletics and recreation facility. But we really took it to the next level when we incorporated another component, and that's the opportunity to host events in the facility as well, not just making it all about athletics, but the opportunity to bring in professional conferences, which we've done with the Voice conference that we hosted here. 7,000 people from all over the world, 11 countries came to the NJIT campus. So when the WEC replaced that 1960s vintage Fleischer Athletic Center, which, by the way, I graduated with my bachelor's in Fleischer as a mid-year graduate. We hosted it back in those days in Fleischer. So it was bittersweet to see it go, but it was necessary. We're a Division I athletics program. We needed recreation space for our students with the challenges of the schedule related to Division I athletics. A lot of times our students didn't have the ability to use those facilities as often as they would have liked. So we needed to provide specific spaces for the athletics program, as well as recreational spaces for our students, so that it truly could be about wellness, could be about events. And how do we bring a physics conference, let's say, to the NJIT campus, where Fleischer just didn't have the capacity, didn't have breakout rooms, didn't have kind of the back of house that you really need to be able to host those type of major events. And as you know, we've hosted some of the major alumni weekend events in the Wellness and Event Center, and it transforms beautifully into that type of facility from a basketball court for the most part. So it could have, that could have never happened here on the NJIT campus. And then talking about the makerspace, that was a vision by Dean Moshe Kam. Moshe was started about the same time as I did, and began talking about a makerspace right away. And it became a reality because of funding from the state of New Jersey. That was not money initially, that was NJIT's funds, but we have supplemented it over time. And we've actually received multiple iterations of funding from the state to help us support the construction of and the outfitting of makerspace. And as you mentioned, Mike, it's not just a small scale facility. This is a facility that has manufacturing level equipment there. I hearken back to my days at Ford Motor Company. I worked at the Edison assembly plant, and the equipment that we have there in the makerspace is exactly what we had in the facilities department at the Ford Motor Company plant, where we could fabricate parts and pieces of equipment and whatnot. So this gives our students that hands-on experience, so they could prototype what they design, whether it be mechanical engineers, civil engineers, architects. They all get the opportunity to utilize that makerspace, which really then allows them to potentially take those inventions of theirs and those designs of theirs and spin off into companies. And we've had students do that because of the makerspace. So it really presents a facility like no other. There are a lot of other colleges that have makerspaces, but I would put ours up against any of those. And we took a space that was underutilized and transformed it, did all of the structural requirements necessary to hold pieces of equipment like that, the CNC machines and whatnot. And we've also gotten a lot of donations from companies like Stryker, where they've helped us outfit with some of the state-of-the-art equipment that is really necessary. And then they get the benefit of our students learning on that type of equipment, which then makes an easy transition to an employee for those companies. So both of those facilities have been transformational in different ways, but were certainly necessary in order to bring NJIT to the forefront and to help continue this amazing growth trajectory that we're on.
So I want to make a quick plug for both for Stryker and our corporate club that are there, and of course folks like Robert Cohen who is one of the chief leaders of that effort, and their sort of generosity for the makerspace, as well as an invitation to all the alums who are watching here to check in with your companies, see if there's ways to support makerspace. It is a community space, obviously, as well as a student space and a faculty space and a learning space for everyone. And I'm also happy to say that, Andrew, due largely to my partnerships with some of the folks you oversee and work regularly with, we've been able to take virtual tours, 360 photos that allow us to walk through the Wellness and Event Center, the Makerspace, and what was formerly the Central High building and is now what we call the Central King building, which I think is just a beautiful example of some of the work that you oversee and have spurred on. So with that in mind, we look at campus, we see all the dramatic transformations that have taken place here. Some of it is traumatic transformations that have taken place. But I also know that we've got so much that's in the hopper that's coming up, some of which you presented around campus, some of which we sort of learn from larger transformation programs that you present to various groups and committees and the city itself. So I'd love to see if there's anything that's of particular interest that you think alumni should know about, and any personal projects you want to talk about here.
Well, absolutely, Mike. I think for any of my fellow alums out there, we've always had an eye on the Muller's Florist properties. That started with Dr. Fenster many decades ago, trying to acquire those facilities, and we've been able to do that. I'm gonna share a slide here on the screen. Hopefully, you all can see that. And show you where we are with the Muller's property. So we were able to acquire those properties back in July of 2019. You can see here a photograph of the partial demolition. That demolition is now complete, of the main Muller's property. So from Central Avenue to Bleecker Street, from Summit Street down to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, with the exception of the Sigma Pi Fraternity House, which is on the corner of MLK and Bleecker. NJIT now owns all of that land. In addition, we purchased across the street. Mr. Muller also owned a facility there that he used as a warehouse. So we have acquired that as well. And you can see the photograph there of that branded with NJIT, so that folks know that it is our property for now. We're going to use it as a warehouse for my facility services team, but we are on the main parcel adjacent to campus. We are installing We're in the middle of right now installing an interim park. So looking at creating some additional green space. You mentioned earlier, Mike, making some more places for students to just be. There'll be benches and seating and trees and grass, and just another opportunity for folks to enjoy the outdoors here in Newark, adjacent to our campus. It'll also provide us with a gateway in some respects to the NJIT campus. Now you'll know that you have arrived at NJIT when you're coming from 280 down south down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. There'll be a sign on the corner. Won't replace the sign at Eberhard that we have probably all taken a photograph on our graduation day but certainly will at least announce your arrival here at the NJIT campus. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to future development happening here at some point in time. And you can see the picture of the facilities master plan and what could eventually make its way there. I'll try and move to the next slide, and hopefully I can make this work. Having a little trouble switching slides. So let me stop sharing and I'll change, and then we can see if we can move on.
And Andrew, while you're doing that, this is just a quick reminder to all of our alums. Again, that QR code in the bottom corner of the screen, what you're going to see there is part of what Andrew and his team work on so well, which is the communication about what's going on campus, the idea of what sort of projects are outstanding, and also a review. I've got to be honest, some of the visuals are spectacular. I was thrilled when we were putting up the Wellness and Event Center that there was a time-lapse creation of the takedown of the old structure, the complete renovation of the field and everything that went into that, and then the actual creation of the new structure, which was really an extraordinary thing to see. And I believe the same is actually true. There are some cameras that are up on Eberhard and some of the other buildings where you can see Mullers. You can see some of the other projects that are on campus. And, you don't have to take my word for it. You can simply go and take a look yourself and see what's going on live. So make sure to check out that QR code in the bottom corner of the screen. It's going to show you, again, some of the projects, but you'll also be able to share that. And that's our ideal. At the end of this session, I hope that you'll consider sharing these developments with friends and fellow classmates, with other people that you know that might be interested in NJIT, and spread the good word about what's going on here. And hopefully, if you're interested and proud, make sure to support the school in its efforts as well.
So, Mike, I'm hoping that you can still see and hear me.
We can, yes. So you're there. We've got you on screen.
I'm having a little technical difficulties with the sharing of the screen. So I'll just describe some of the other projects that we have in the hopper.
Sure.
And the next significant project is a public-private partnership that we've been working on to fulfill the additional residential need that we have here on our campus. Currently, NJIT has about 2,000 students that live on our campus on an annual basis. But we recognize through a demand study that we started a couple of years ago, continued to do through the pandemic, and still recognizing that we needed more beds on the NJIT campus to help us with our recruiting of students maybe outside of the normal catchment area of NJIT, plus some of our graduate student population that comes from all over the world. We have broken ground on a new 548-bed apartment-style facility on the site of the former Warren Street School. So that is located on the corner of Warren and Locke Streets. The facility itself is going to have a different type of unit mix than we have in any of our existing residential properties here at NJIT, and that will be a multi-bedroom apartment style with kitchens, living rooms. We have a few of those in Oak Hall, but this will provide that throughout the entire building. There'll be single rooms, there'll be double rooms, give people a very diverse opportunity for living on campus. And this facility will have outdoor green spaces elevated above a single-story parking deck that will have about 70 parking spaces in it. It will have a ground floor retail space that will hopefully populate with some.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as does sometimes happen with virtual events, we are having a little bit of a technical difficulty. Mr. Christ will be back on shortly. We're going to reach out to him here. What I'm going to do in the meantime is go in slight depth about what you can see in front of you right now. And what you're seeing is actually the very Warren Street area that Andrew was talking about. So this is a live cam, as I mentioned before, of the construction area for the new dorm. Now, as Andrew mentioned, the dorm itself is really an enormous project. It's part of the overall plan of the university to try and build out some of the residential areas. As some of our viewers remember, there were very few, if any, dorms when you attended NJIT. We've been steadily growing that over the years. This particular structure is very much embedded in the community. So it is something done in partnership with the city. It's done with respect to the area and growing with the area. You can see, as a matter of fact, on the right-hand side of that particular webcam, that there are some areas which are actually already owned by NJIT. You can see our, what used to be our Enterprise Development Center is now called Venture Link, which is a public, private, corporate, and NJIT-related area. That's one of those buildings off to the right-hand side. Behind there, you can see some of the new residential developments that were put in several years ago to accommodate teachers, to accommodate some of the Newark residences. And of course, off to the left there, you'll see more construction that's going on. We actually have quite a bit of the area in that section of Newark. And this, of course, you can see down there, there's Raymond and Warren. And off to the side, of course, we also have our parking lot, our new parking lot area that is off to the right-hand side. Now, generally, this is part of the overall structure of what is going on for campus transformation. Now, as we're looking to get Mr. Christ back to the online session here, I'm going to walk through some of the other projects very briefly. Of course, he'll be able to do this better when he does join us. You'll see on the website the Facility Services Warehouse, the green at University Park, which is what Andrew was speaking about. As a matter of fact, you'll even be able to see the live webcam right there. Now, that webcam is something that you can actually play. You can see the work going on. Or, of course, you can hear the work as I can right from my window. You'll hear trucks moving in and out of there pretty much nonstop all day as we transform that area. You can see this microfabrication center, which is on there as well. And I'm thrilled to say that Andrew is back with us. So I'm going to welcome Andrew back to the program. Andrew, glad to have you join us.
So, Michael, sorry about that. I moved offices just yesterday, and so this is a brand new computer, and it's not behaving properly. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know where you lost me, but I'd be happy to go back and give you a little bit more detail.
Right back at that Warren Street residence hall. So I gave a brief interlude talking about the location of this as it pertains to campus. But you're certainly welcome to share some more detail. I think you were talking about how it's got ground floor amenities and how that relates and is open with the neighborhood as well.
Yeah. So again, providing facilities like that we just don't have here on the NJIT campus now. It'll have an outdoor terrace above a 70-car parking garage, which will provide students with a couple of fire pits, an outdoor kitchen, some amenities that we just don't have. It'll be primarily for upper class and graduate students. So students in their freshman and sophomore year will likely still fill the existing facilities on our campus and then be able to move into this new facility as they become juniors, seniors, and grad students, giving a little bit of an elevated experience for their last few years. There's not much in the way of local off-campus housing, so it's important to be able to provide that opportunity for cooking for those students that are a little older that don't necessarily want to participate in a meal plan. So they'll have that chance with the new Warren Street Residence Hall. So we expect to have that facility up and operational in August of 2022. Our contracting partner, Rise Realty, our developer, is working hard with terminal construction to make that come to fruition, and we expect that we'll be ready to roll next August with that new facility. And then we're beginning the conversation about what's next. We have the 2018 facilities master plan. We did a space needs analysis, but we're recognizing that there's going to be some transition. Many of you know that Dr. Bloom has announced his retirement. We need to see what the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic are on our residential population, on our campus overall population, and then what does NJIT want to become in the next decade or so. We originally had planned to by 2030 to be at about 15,000 students. Well, we now have a new strategic plan building on a strong foundation, NJIT 2025, that talks about NJIT Global. Students who will be all over the world able to participate in learning at NJIT. So what will that impact will that have on that 15,000 number? Will it be in addition to, or will it be part of that 15,000? So with the help of the Board of Trustees, our Buildings and Grounds Committee, our shared governance groups, we will have that conversation over the next year or so, and we'll look at the opportunities that we now have with acquiring the Mullers property, some other underutilized spaces on our campus, like the old spec building, which many of you probably remember as public safety. Now it's the university bookstore, but it's a single-story building on a piece of very valuable property for the university. So what will come and what will be there, We have to accommodate our incredible research growth over the next several years. So all of that will be in the mix. And I look forward to coming back as we solidify those plans and talk a little bit more about those.
So, Andrew, I want to thank you again for joining us. You're an incredibly busy man, so taking any time to talk about this, I know, is something that's a real boon to me and certainly to the alumni in general. You're a fantastic alum. You're a great leader on campus, and I hope I'll have the opportunity to welcome you to many more of these updates in the future. Thanks again for joining us.
Sounds good, Mike, and I apologize again for the technical difficulties.
It happens. It's live. What can you do?
Right,
Andrew, thank you. So that was Andrew Christ, class of 94 and 01, the Senior Vice President for Real Estate and Development and Capital Operations at NJIT, otherwise known as Redco. We were thrilled to welcome him to our latest Highlander Chat about NJIT's campus transformation. Now, for all the folks who are watching and for all the folks that will be seeing this recording, make sure to check out the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That's going to link you to many of the projects that Andrew mentioned in his talk. And I want to remind you, of course, that this is one of many events that we have now and coming up over the summer and into the fall. Please check out our website, njit.edu/development/events. That is a list of all of the many ways that you can engage with the university that are coming up. And I hope you'll join us for our next Highlander Chat, which will be coming up in just about 2 weeks. Finally, this has been Mike Small. I'm Executive Director of the Alumni Relations Office. I was pleased to welcome you to this Highlander Chat. And as I like to say at the conclusion of all of our webinars, go Highlanders.